And without further ado, I will introduce now the second speaker, Dr. Sanjana Atotuwa from the Special Advisor at ICT for Peace Foundation. Sanjana, can you tell us more about the work of ICT for Peace in tackling hate speech? And in case, please, can you mention a couple of examples on where you have been active in these efforts? Thank you, Sanjana. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Simona, Your Excellencies, distinguished panelists, great opportunity to speak. The Foundation's been involved in quite a bit since 2006 when I joined, and even before, as the custodian of the WSIS, the World Summit on Information Societies, paragraph on technology and peace building. I suppose my perspective also through the Foundation is as a person of color and somebody from the global south, of which there are far too few, and far too few of us have voice. So even on these panels, you find representatives of us, but not us. And our point is simple. There shouldn't be a conversation of things that have affected us for centuries, if not decades, without us being in the room. And we can speak. We know English as well. So, the Foundation has been quite active in this area. We as far back as 2010, if I recall, with the predecessor of the current Undersecretary General, Mr. Francis Deng, we had a meeting in New York to talk about, at the time, very embryonic emphasis on social media. You would recall that this was, the Arab Spring, quote unquote, and it was a time of optimism and a time of democratic renewal and the belief that social media would be the harbinger of stronger democratic traditions globally. So we had a really good conversation about how social media could combat, hate speech paradigms. Little did we know that social media companies would themselves then become, in the next decade, the conveyors of hate, hurt, and harm and content inciting violence. We also contributed to the report on digital cooperation in 2019. We've worked with the Responsibility to Protect as well. We've come out with several publications, including as far back as over a decade ago, ICTs against the prevention of atrocity crimes. And we've kind of focused, Simona, on two questions. One is, what do you do in countries with poor media literacy and who have structural racism entrenched in systems of governance that are now amplified and exacerbated by the capture of those architectures by autocratic, authoritarian, dictatorial, and racist governments? That's a fairly complex and wicked problem that we strive to address. And then two, with AI and algorithmic recommendation engines, etc., what do we do when these algorithms are designed by individuals who are male, white, from Silicon Valley, and don't understand how their algorithms contribute to radicalization? And we've done a fair bit of work, including output in that regard. We've also helped, as you know, with the Plan of Action of Hate with the current Secretary General, His Excellency Guterres. We've worked with ICRC, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. So we've worked with a number of UN agencies, and the thrust of it has been to kind of communicate our experience from Sri Lanka, which is where I'm from. And as the Undersecretary General said, also our experience with Myanmar, and in the Balkans and in many other places where this is a patina on civil society as a consequence of having to negotiate it every day. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, it's not just something that's academic or algorithmic or something that is occasional. And I'm very glad that there is a day to recognize this, because this is something that many activists, and we can talk about this more, have to negotiate every day in their life, both at work and at home, coming to work and going from work to home. So it's a real thing. And that patina of experience through technology and social media is something that we strive to unpack, negotiate, help clarify, do research on, and help the UN system better engage with. That's in a nutshell what the Foundation has done for well over a decade.
Thank you. Sanjana, what needs to be done? What are your recommendations?
End of this call, we'll have world peace and we can all go home. The Undersecretary General can rest easy tonight. Listen, I just to echo Claire, this is, in the classic sense, it's a wicked problem. This is this is not a theological perspective, wicked problems are sociological problems that don't have easy solutions. And to address it as such is to recognize that the more solutions that we create, the problems will also morph and merge and move into new terrain. This is not going to be something that is going to go away. So I would say on behalf of the foundation that we take a grounded, granular, contextual approach, which is very important. What works in Pakistan may not work in sub-Saharan Africa, and what works in Ethiopia may not work in Christchurch. And so ecologies, societies, people, histories, communities, context and culture matter. And they matter because they shape technology and its adoption and adaptation as well. I suppose the sunlight of scrutiny, the work that the UN is doing, what the Undersecretary General is doing, what the 18th of June stands for and will become and will showcase is important. Also because social media companies hate a bad media cycle, much more than they have principles, really. So if there's a bad media cycle about something that they contributed to, that can be attributed to algorithmics, recommendation engines, that they really fear. So, in a tactical manner, the sunlight of scrutiny and the United Nations can really help push the needle to get them to respond better and more meaningfully as well. I would see a great role for the Undersecretary General to work with the Special Rapporteur for the freedom of expression. And for example, the Office for the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the UN system to be more tightly woven around what is an endemic problem for the system and to treat it as a systems level issue for the UN, wherever that they are in the world. And then finally, I've been working on this from 2007, and I do not believe anymore that self-regulation is going to fix. We need some sort of regulation, but mindful of the fact that governments like mine in Sri Lanka and many other governments will leverage and utilize that regulation to their own ends. So this is a Gordian knot, if you will, but I do not believe that SM companies based in the Silicon Valley have the wherewithal or the interest over profit to really make a meaningful impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjana, for stressing the importance of the granularity of the approach, context specific. This is something that the United Nations really stand for, and the importance also internally to work. I can assure you that we work very closely with OHCHR, with the Special Rapporteur, and not only with the one on freedom of opinion and expression. And the need of some sort of regulation, yes, but being careful also of what the government wants of it. Points taken.